Hello, everybody. Welcome to another episode of Unlocked, where we talk about unlocking the potential of you, the people you work with, and the people you do life with. At the time of this recording, I'm offering all of you, yes, my lovely listeners, a free 15-minute communication coaching call. You come with some kind of communication problem, and I give you a solution. My calendar link is in the show notes, so check that out. Today, William Vanderbloemen is going to share with us the secrets to becoming a unicorn. Yes, a real live unicorn, everyone. Yes, everyone is going to love you because everyone loves unicorns. If we could only find them. If we could only find the unicorn. Well, here's what we're going to talk about. We're going to give you three tips to becoming that unicorn. Okay? Becoming that unicorn. And then maybe a bonus tip in there too that I accidentally stumbled upon that's going to help you stand out in the crowd and to be that person that everybody wants. William is the CEO and founder of Vanderbloemen Search Group, and they do searching, executive searches, and they do placements. And he'll talk a little bit about that at the beginning. He's the author of Next, Pastoral Succession That Works, Search, the Pastoral Search Committee Handbook, and Culture Wins, the Roadmap to an Irresistible Workplace. He's about to come out with a new book at the time of this recording. Maybe you've already seen it out there, and you can go ahead and pre-order it now. It is called Be the Unicorn. So that's what we're going to talk about on this one. He's also contributed to Forbes, Fortune, Outreach Magazine, Fast Company, Entrepreneur, and he speaks all over the country, the world, and he does various things in that space. So there's some really good stuff in here. This was a fun interview. William's got a lot of great energy, and we share some really good stories and tips in here. And the story at the beginning is pretty funny, so you should check that out. All right, here we go. William, hey man, what's up?
Hey, how are you, Scott?
I'm so good. Now, first question, I didn't ask you this in the pre-show because I want to ask you now spontaneously. The last name, I would say it as Vanderbloemen, but that's how the Germans would say it. I would say you're a flower of, wait, what is it? A hiking flower? I mean, is that how you would translate it? I mean, what is, tell me about the Vanderbloemen thing.
You're not far from the truth. It does sound like flowers, Vanderbloemen. I don't know how you're supposed to say it. That's just the Americanized version that has been here for a couple hundred years. But it Vander, and like, in Spanish, there's de la, sol, de la,
Mm-hmm.
Vander is the Dutch equivalent. So it's of the flowers. So it's
There you go.
pretty amazing in middle school to be a flower boy. That was awesome. But
Beautiful. Flower boy. That's what you're
yeah.
going to be called the rest of the interview, William. Flower boy.
So,
So
it's funny though. You guys are interested in branding and logo and all this, right? So when we were very quickly putting our company together, which is a whole nother podcast, we were into logos and what have you. And I probably bought 300 domain names from GoDaddy. I need to get in a recovery group. It was bad. And I hired a guy who was an SEO guru, whatever that means, and said, okay, I got 300 for you to work with, or you can use something else. What we're not going to do is name the company after me, though, because I don't want to be the lid. I don't want to be the thing that holds back. I don't want people to say, well, we want William to do the work. And nobody. So, okay, they come back, do all their magic on the mountain or however they find their answers. You come back and say, good news and bad news. Okay. Good news is we found the right domain name, company name too. Bad news is it's your name. I'm like, are you kidding me? I grew up hating this thing. V is in Victor, A, N is in Nancy, D is in, it takes forever. And they said, well, so that's the thing. Your last name is so messed up that you can misspell it in Google 100 different ways and it'll feed right back to your domain. So
SEO guru at their best, right? SEO guru.
Well, it works. Try it. Try spelling it any way you want in Google. It'll drive right back to the company website. So, in fact, we've almost dropped the visual logo and just made the actual word the logo, which is sort of against the grain of a lot of thinking. But yeah,
That's awesome, man. Oh my gosh, that's so good. I love it. I love it. So it's like own it, man. Just own it.
yeah,
Flower Boy, Vanderbloom, whatever you want to do.
that's it.
It's all good.
That's
It's
it.
all good. Flowerboy.com. Did you try that one?
No, I did not.
Okay. Well, I'm going to own that one now. Sorry, I'm going to sell it to you. So, okay, here we go. Let's get on with the real show here. This is so good. I love it. Okay. Be the unicorn. In fact, that was quite a unicorn quite move. Your new book coming out is speaking all about uniqueness and how to own something and how to be that original version of that thing or the best of the best or the thing that sets you apart. And you have a little bit of knowledge about this. You've done a huge research project, and it wasn't something you went out and intentionally did. It's something that you do at your company. So it just, you happen to have all the data. So tell us
Yeah.
about that. Give us the background and why you came up with this book.
Yeah, well, so for a long, long time, I don't know if you've ever, you've had this happen. You go to a party and there's a person in the room that's just different. They just draw people to themselves, right? Or you interview somebody and you're like, I got to hire him. 5 minutes into the conversation, you're like, this is a special person, right? I have wondered what's the formula for that? Like, how does that happen? Is it just inborn or is it learnable or whatever? So our company is an executive search firm. So we get hired to help values-based companies, faith-based institutions, nonprofits find their top leaders, like their C-suite. And so these are not like mid-level or low-level in the org searches. And every time we do a search, we've been doing this for a while now. Every time we do a search, we'll have maybe 1,000 people interested in a search. And then you narrow it down, maybe there's 100 possible match candidates, right? And then you do your Zoom interviews and phone calls, and you're narrowing down to dozens. And then you get down to the last layer of the best of the best. And those people, probably, I don't know, maybe it's 10 people in each search, get a face-to-face interview that's long format. So we've now done 30,000 of those face-to-face long format interviews. And during the pandemic, when nobody was hiring and everything was closed, we had some time to drop back and think, which was kind of cool. Because we've been growing every year, and you don't have time to work on things when you're in them, right? So we started to ask the question. So 30,000 face-to-face. Could we figure out who the best of those 30,000 are? Like the ones that got the job, stuck at the job, were productive. And the people that you meet and 5 minutes later, you say, oh, what a great person. Yeah, we found them. We figured out who the best were. And then we asked the question, do they have anything in common? And the answer was yes. And the really cool part of the answer was, I'll tell you it wasn't, Scott. It wasn't they were all 6 feet tall, right? It wasn't they all had amazing hair and teeth, right? It wasn't even they all had high IQs. They didn't go to Ivy League schools. It wasn't any of that. They had habits in common. And we distilled it down to 12 habits that we're able to track by data and see this is the alchemy. This is what makes the person that stands out in the crowd, the person that is the unicorn, right? So the short way of saying this is for 15 years, organizations have hired us and paid us to find their next unicorn. And we're pretty good at spotting them. But now we've learned how to teach people to become one. And that's the hope with the book. So, 12 habits. So we break it into 12 chapters, and we point to the data and say, here's what we've learned. Here's how we've seen it happen, and here's how you apply that to your life. So it's not a dissertation. It's not brain surgery kind of reading. It's really simple habits that can be put in anyone's life. I mean, that goes down to, I know your audience is mainly C-suite people, but I bet some of your listeners have people applying to college right now. How do you stand out of that crowd? That's hardest thing in the world. Or you got people that are single. They're just trying to stand out in the dating world. Like this, I think we're onto something pretty cool. And I think it's going to help a lot of people.
Okay, that's cool. So it teaches me how to be a unicorn, not
Yes.
find the unicorn.
No, you can become one.
How to
Be the
be the
unicorn.
unicorn. Okay, that's good. So tell me then, like out of these 12, I mean, you found 12.
Mm.
Why wasn't it, I'm going to say, why wasn't it like 10? Why'd you go to 12?
Yeah.
And then why not 20? I mean, what
Yeah.
was it about that 12 spot?
Well, if you talk to experts, they'll tell you odd numbers are more dynamic than even numbers. It would have been a better book if it were The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People, right?
That's a great title, by the way. You should have
Isn't that a
probably
good one?
taken that one. You should go
Yeah,
get that
yeah.
URL. I'll bet you it's available.
We should have begun with the end in mind. Anyway, um, it really was driven by the data. What are the traits we saw in these best of the best, and how at some point there's a drop off of what do you see in all these people. So there are probably 20, 30, 40 things, but there are 12 that were right at the top that stood out.
Okay, the cream right there, right? The cream. So should we end the episode now? We should just end it now, right? Just like cliffhanger. No, let's do this. Tell me, give me some. I want, I don't know, give me some of your best ones. Give me your top 3, your first one that's
Yeah.
awesome, whatever you want to do.
Well, it's interesting. It depends on what you are trying to become. Okay, so there's some. We've actually built a software tool that's really cool that'll help people self-assess. What am I good at? It'll help teams can use it for 360, so we can see how do we help you progress as an employee and become better as a team member, better in your career. And what we're working on now is figuring out which combinations of these 12 habits are more present in salespeople versus accountants versus nurses. Like where is the alchemy really special for case specific jobs? I'll tell you a couple that I'll tell you one that's so surprising. Responsiveness. What do you mean, William? Well, do you get back to people? Like, your listeners wouldn't know this, but both of us had a calendar issue today, and it kind of, led to some sideways on recording. And I reached out to your team and said, well, how would later this afternoon work? And the answer was, that's great. How about in an hour? And got right back to me. And now here we are, and it's done rather than having 5 meetings to schedule the meeting. Just getting back to people is a habit that is very common among unicorns and incredibly uncommon among the population. So like you do marketing stuff, right? That's
I
kind of
did for 20 years, and that was a lot of brand strategy and things I did in the past. I've shifted a bit since then, but yes, my knowledge of it
okay.
is extensive. Yeah.
So inbound marketing, right? Like HubSpot, Infusionsoft, that sort of thing. It's when you're on a website and they say fill out your form for more information or when you fill out the form, turn it in, right? So my understanding of sales is the point of a sales call is not to close the sale. The point of the sales call is to get to the next call, right? You don't club people over the head. You take your time, you build relationship. And so the question HubSpot asked years ago was, does how quickly you respond to people affect how likely you are to get that next call, right? So what they found was, you fill out a form online, please have someone contact me. If that person that reached out gets a response that's not automated, like human response, within 1 minute, there's a 98% chance that you're going to get that next call. If you wait 20 minutes, it drops to 60%. If you wait 24 hours, you have a less than 1% chance of ever talking to that person again. So then they ask the question, well, like of all the inbound marketing companies, what's the average response time that these companies are actually doing? You know what it was? Take a guess.
3 days. How many?
Yeah, about that. 42 hours.
42 hours. Okay.
42 hours. So spending all this money on marketing, all this money on people on the payroll to call people back, and you have less than 1% chance of success. It's so uncommon for people to do what your team did with me today and get right back to people. It makes it a unicorn, something common among the best that's uncommon among the rest.
That's interesting. I think we either scared a bunch of people to ever fill out a form again, or we got a bunch of people excited that
Well,
maybe somebody will actually call them back if they fill one
actually,
out.
the people that are scared is my team, because anytime I bring this particular habit up, our phone starts lighting up saying, okay, well, let's see if they actually get back to me in a minute.
Oh, pressure's on. Okay, everybody, call William right now. Right now. Oh, man. Yeah, pressure's on. Oh, that's good. That's good. Okay.
But it's so simple. Just get back to people. It's not hard,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah. Yeah, that is, I think my kids are doomed though, because they obviously do not respond when I ask them to empty the dishwasher. It takes a few times. So
Have you
I don't
tried
know if there's any hope.
asking them over Snapchat?
Oh, I have not. I have
That might
not.
be the way to do it.
I should probably do that. Human to human connection. That's so
outdated.
That's so old. So old.
That's right.
Oh my gosh. All right, give me another one. I want another one.
Yeah, okay. One that's super interesting is people that are curious are uncommon. Most people don't ask questions. I'm finding when I do an interview, I do very few searches now. I really am not very involved in the client-facing work. I do more speaking and writing and that kind of thing. But I find the best way for me to learn about a candidate in an interview is to say, hey, you know what? I'm not the person you're going to end up working for. I'm just the search guy. What questions can I answer for you about the company you're talking about working for? What questions do you have? Wow, do you learn a lot when you ask that? First of all, most people love to be asked that question. Very few are able to come up with an intelligent question. Like, I don't know, how much does it pay? That's not a good question. It's a necessary question at some point. But well, tell me how many times this position's been open in the last 10 years and why. That's pretty interesting. Tell me about, say it's 2 years from now, I go to work for this company and they have renamed their campus the Vanderbloemen campus because y'all did such an awesome job. What did I get done in the first 2 years that made them do backflips and rename their buildings? Just curious, interested questions, which, leads to another one of the habits. I'll give you a third one, and I'm going to have to cut you off. But a third one would be agility. And what I mean by that is the ability to stretch and try new things. Most people are not good at that. I remember, Scott, gosh, it's probably been 10 years ago now. Our youngest was 2 years old, and I am a slow jogger, and I'd gotten to the age where I really had to start stretching some or I'd get injured, right? And the stretching was worse than the run. I hated it. And I was stretching one day and just sweating like a madman while just trying to touch my toes. And our youngest, who was little at the time, came in, looked at me, sat herself down and tied herself into some kind of human pretzel that only, little kids can do. And stood back up, laughed at me, and left the room without saying a word. And I thought, it dawned on me. I said, William, you know what? Every day you're alive, you get less flexible. And that is just a biological fact. So the people who will commit themselves to intentionally stretching themselves, that's not a common person, but it's a common trait among unicorns. So, and man, in the world we're in now, where you got, post-pandemic living, and you've got AI coming for human jobs, and the ability to stretch yourself might be one of the most important habits to develop. It'll certainly make you stand out of the crowd.
Wow. Okay. Just being responsive, being curious. So I imagine the people that when you said, "Hey, do you have any questions about the company?" The ones that say, no, I'm
I'm good.
imagining those people do not get further in the interview process.
Right. Right.
Okay. And then agility, stretch, try new things,
Yeah.
push
Oh,
yourself.
we were interviewing somebody for a chief communications officer job during the pandemic, and I like to ask the question, "Hey, what's a cool new hobby you've got, or something, some new interest you're pursuing?" Because that's a passive way of saying, "Are you somebody that's working on agility?" And this woman, who was a fabulous candidate, but she said, "Well, I'm learning French." I said, "Really? Why?" Because, I mean, back in the day, French was the diplomatic language, but now it's like, unless you're a foodie or into wine, why? Maybe you got a relative in Canada. She said, "Well, the thing is, my daughter is the class of 2020. And for her graduation, we were going to go to France. And obviously, that's not going to happen now. We had to cancel it. I don't even know if she's going to have a graduation in person or not. So I promised her we were going to do the trip whenever this lets up. And we challenged each other to be able to speak French whenever we get there. And so I'm trying to learn French. I'm trying to, it showed problem solving, solution oriented thinking. It showed an ability to try new things and learn new things, not just willy nilly. There's some people, you say, "What's your favorite book?" And the answer is the one they just finished. But it's not that. It's a curious agility and responsiveness. When you see those, that's just three. But when you see these 12 things coming together in a person, it makes them stand out. And they're not difficult habits. It's just people don't do them.
Wow. That's cool. That's a cool story. You know what I love about what you do? I love that you make sense of the things that are said, but you pull out the gold, like the high end strategy, the story behind what's really being said. That is such a gift, and that's really cool. I'm just a little bit of a side note, not really applying to this show necessarily, but I love that ability for you as a company to do that. And I want people that are listening to this to think about the questions that are being asked probably aren't the questions being asked,
That's right.
to think about how do you present yourself in a way that is adding context to the story, and how are you shaping your own narrative to be hireable and to
Yeah.
be somebody who wants to,
And true to your own
recruit.
brand. And true to your
Totally.
own brand. I mean,
Yeah.
the question, "Tell me about yourself," like that's in every interview. It's a terrible question, but it happens. Well, how do you answer that? If you know yourself and you've studied the company and job, you're not just rage applying or whatever the phrase is these days. Uh, you can answer that question really well. Scott, your company, you guys, I love that you're in hockey stick growth, because that probably means that your company is hiring people, and then the job description changes every day because you're growing so fast. I'm a 7 on the Enneagram. I love the next new challenge. I love the next. So and in my previous job where I was head of marketing, we were growing really fast, and we had to come up with a new plan every time there was a new social media platform. So we implemented, you know, Instagram and then Snapchat and then TikTok. We had to learn all that and figure it out. And it was great fun. Don't put me in a job where I'm doing the same thing every day. That's why I love your company. And I think that how I'm wired might match the kind of person you're looking for. So that is a good answer, because you're showing knowledge of self, knowledge of the company, and the two can work together.
Oh, that is really valuable. So would that be the main advice you give somebody looking for, to be this unicorn, to stand out in the crowd? Is it that know yourself
It's
thing, or
certainly
is it
it's
like,
certainly one of them.
what would you
That's
say
that's
is
one
one
of
of,
the 12 habits. You got it. You got a fourth one out of
oh,
me.
I got a
That's
bonus one. I got a bonus one. Okay,
bonus
everybody.
content. Yeah.
Yes.
No. That self awareness is incredibly rare. We we surveyed 250,000 people around these 12 habits to see how people view themselves, and what's the norm and the median and the mean and all this. I think it was 91% of the 250,000 people we surveyed said they were more self-aware than average. 91%. Like, I'm not a mathematician, but I'm pretty sure 91% of people are not above average.
Yeah,
So,
there's a stat that I'll throw out there sometimes. It's around that idea, right? Is that, and this was done with another study. About 95% of people said they were, more so matches what your study was. The actual number, they actually did some actual. I don't know how you actually measure if somebody's self-aware or not, but the actual number was around 15%. So there was
yeah.
like an 80% gap, and I said that's a huge self-awareness problem. Is that you've got 80% of the people thinking they are, but they're not, and
Well, so that's the thing. These are habits that are really common among unicorns, easily learned and applied, and not common among normal people. You know, out of all the interviews I've done, you know how many times somebody told me, "Yeah, that job, I got fired from that one, and it was my fault." Let me tell you why. Like, I could probably count it on my two hands. Like, everybody's had a job that didn't work out. Like, it's just, but self-awareness, it's not common at all.
yeah, I was working at Target food court, and I was giving my friends free refills on their drinks because I wanted them to like me, and I was a cool guy. And I found out that was not what I was supposed to be doing. As they took me into the camera room later and showed me all the receipts of the free drinks I was getting everybody, and then they told me I was banned from that Target for the rest of my life. So there it is, William. I gave you my dirt. I gave you
That's
my dirt.
awesome. That's
So
awesome.
I gave you my dirt. Okay. So tell me, as a company searching for the unicorn,
Yeah.
how do they make sure it's a good cultural fit? How do they find these people to make sure they're bringing in the right people and doing the right things to
Yeah.
find the
Well,
unicorn?
I think we're back to self-awareness. Are you aware as a company? Are you aware of what you're looking for? When I was a young leader running a organization that had about, let's see, probably 200 people head count, and I was running it, and I would just go hire. Right out of the gate, I had 4 high-level hires, and I hired the 4 most talented people I ran into. They were amazing, and then I realized why no one wants to coach the NBA. I mean, excuse me, the Olympic basketball team, because everybody's just like ball, ball, ball. I got it. Talent is not the win. What I should have done is said, what are we actually looking for, and what actually fits at our company, and then assess who I'm looking at. Very few people actually do that. Like, oh, we want creative and energetic and innovative, really just outside the box thinking. Yeah, not if you're looking for a compliance officer, right? We tried innovative accounting in Houston. It was called Enron. So I think if you're an employer looking for the unicorn, it's not just, you need to know what works in your organization and what you're actually looking for, and then find the tissue match. And I think most companies are not self-aware. We need some young, new thinking around here. When it's a company that's been around for 7 bajillion years and hasn't changed in 6 bajillion, they're just going to get eaten alive and nobody's going to have a good time. So I think that self-awareness of what are we looking for and what works here. I tell people when we do a search, it's essentially an organ transplant. And I asked transplant doctors this question because I live right around a medical center. And one of them told me, "Oh, William, the donor list is hard to develop. But what separates the best from the rest is the ability to do the tissue match. You can put a healthy heart in a healthy body, and if they don't match, it's bad ending for everyone." And that's about the cleanest way I know to describe hiring that there is. You can get a great person and a great company and put them together. If they don't match, it's all over. Most of our time, most of the reason people pay us is for the ability to tissue match, not just go find me some names. If that makes sense.
That makes a lot of sense, because I think that the finding me some names is a commodity. I think
Yeah,
it's just, hey, go get me a list of 100 people. And it's like, okay, I can get you a list that'll pump out these criteria
yeah,
and these things and
yeah.
these whatever. Then I think it goes back to, and I think it's that skill that I was pointing out earlier, is how do you tell the story from the information you're pulling? Because a lot of people can get the information out. I can sit on a phone with anybody and just interview them, ask them a bunch of questions, but it's what's the story that's being told? Who is the right tissue match for what we're trying to build here? And I think that skill is invaluable, and that's probably what sets you apart.
Well, we're learning as we go.
Aren't we all?
Yeah.
This is so cool. Okay, so we've got your book. It's coming out in November of 2023. If you're listening to this after the show, then it's already there. Hallelujah. There you go. But stay tuned if you're listening to this before the show. I mean, before the book comes out, and people, I imagine, will be able to find that wherever they buy stuff.
Wherever they buy stuff. And, back to that, where we started, if you go to Amazon and just try typing Vanderbloemen in however you would like, you'll get to the author page and the things that are there. And you can, even while we're recording now, pre-orders are open. So it's, go ahead and reserve your copy. That'd be great.
Brilliant. Do not type in Flower Boy in Amazon. It will probably not come up. So Vanderbloemen for sure. That's awesome. William, this has been gold, man. If people want to hire you to speak, they want to find out more about your services, maybe they're searching, who do you cater to? Where do they find you?
Yeah. So they go to Google and they type Vanderbloemen however they want, and it'll go straight there. And you can see all the things you'd expect, a speaker reel. And there's also, there's probably 3,500 free resources on that website for how you can build and run and keep a great team. So if nothing else, go there, and if you've got a headache with people at your company, there's probably a resource there to address it. We've been writing for a long time.
Goodness, 3,500. I'd spend the rest of my life there, William, just like hanging out. So I get a tattoo of Vanderbloemen on it. It won't be spelled right, but at least it'll say it. So, so good. It was really good to have you, man. Thanks a lot.
Thanks for having me, man.
And telling people how to be those unicorns. I think it's something that people are looking for. But I think if you add them, give them a good formula, some good pieces to look after, I think it's gold. So thanks for doing that.
Well, I hope it helps people. It's a tough time to stand out right now, and I hope this helps some people.
30,000 interviews has created this wealth of knowledge, of data, of information that William and his group were able to go, you know what they did there, everybody? They did what they do every day with their job, is when they listen and they pull the gold from those what surface level questions look like. They tell the story. What they did is they told the story from all the data that they've gathered. They told the story of what it takes to be the unicorn and to stand out in a time when it's really hard to stand out. A lot of people are competing for different things, different jobs, different ways to stand out. And what is your brand all about? Well, this Be the Unicorn is a mentality, this idea is going to help you. I would love to see what kind of swag they come out with for this thing. If you want to get in touch with me, William, let me know. But I think that when we look at these tips, responsiveness, curiosity, agility, I would love somebody that was all three of those things. Self-awareness, that was self-aware. And then the other mystery 8 that are in there, you're going to have to get the book to find out the rest of them. So there's really good stuff. I hope that you took those things to heart. I hope that you are trying in your own journey, whether you're going out looking for a gig, whether you are existing in a current gig. Like, I'm sure anybody, not just looking for a new opportunity, but the people in your team right now, maybe you're a leader, maybe these are the things and the qualities that you need to exemplify as a leader. I think they probably are. Maybe as a dad, as a mom, as a brother, as a sister, as a whatever. These are probably some pretty good traits for you to practice as a human being. If you want to find out more information about me or check out the show notes where there's going to be more information and links to the things referenced in this episode, visit skotwaldron.com. And lastly, I'm asking for a little bit of love, just a little bit. So please take a moment, follow, rate the show. The algorithms like that. It helps me get the word out. I really appreciate it. Thank you. And until next time, stay unlocked.